Agenda, other than the roll call, of course, is pool proposals.
We received 3 proposals from firms. Those were due today, this afternoon. We received 3 proposals from 3 different firms for the amount that it would be to design, engineer, and bid and do construction oversight for the pool. And the bids on that range from $60,000 to $71,000 over the 3 bids. As I said, that's for the, they've only had them since 4:30, 4 o'clock, so I haven't gotten down into the weeds, but that's the cost for design, oversight, construction oversight, and bidding for the pool. There isn't a cost estimate in any of them for what construction would be, because that depends on the design that's finalized. It's reasonable to anticipate that the construction design administration is 10 to 15% of the cost of what your overall facility would be. If the council wants to keep this on track for looking at replacement before next year, there would need to be an article on the election warrant to authorize an expenditure sufficient to facilitate construction of the pool. And that a number that might be safe to do that with, although I would hope it would be high, would be based on the 60 to 71,000 would be $700,000. And if, in fact, if it was going to be significantly more than that, this council should have a conversation about that cost and what the options are in terms of a pool replacement.
So we won't have the cost. We should have the cost before the election, do you think, or?
Before the actual election, we should have
A good guess estimate?
Well, we will, before the election, if you select a vendor to design the pool, you should have the design of the pool, and they can go out to bid on that design. Whether that can happen between
2.5 months.
3.5 months, it would seem that would be workable. So there's a good idea that by the time the election came around, you'd know if it was.
That would be my biggest concern, is that we put this on the ballot without really. Yes, good estimate is 10% of the cost maybe is what it is, but then we get a number that comes back at 1.1 million, which I don't expect. But it just would be nice for folks to have more information. I don't know if these folks doing the design can give us a 90% cost estimate based on how they do work, or even a 50% cost estimate, at least an estimate closer to where we're at, because we are just really going off that 10 to 12%.
Well, since these are, I had asked Jacob before what the last day that we could get anything on to the warrant was, and whether if we did something on the 12th, it was still possible to. We had the question already, except for a number.
Sure.
I would think that would.
Is it possible maybe to contact these folks and see
that's
if they
what
can?
I'm going to do with.
And then we can make the final
with the
determination on
why.
the 12th. Would that be?
And if necessary, you could have a special meeting before then. I'm not suggesting that you have to, but.
No, I think it would be good diligence on us. I don't know what you think, Councilor Bissonnette.
I'm hesitant about putting out a number and having it be too low. And while that's unlikely, I just think the one, you put out a number, you go and vote on it, and then back to your example, if it comes in $400,000 higher, I just think that that's perhaps not the best way to manage this, and I'll leave it at that. I think if we could get a reasonable handle on that number before, whether it's the 6th or the 12th of September, then.
Are you saying you think it's reasonable to get that number, Sue, by then?
I'm saying that contacting these
Will tell us.
people, everyone who's done these has built pools, so they know how much it costs to build them. And so I think that they could give us
And you're saying if we make a decision on the 12th, that will be fine for the ballot? Okay.
And then, even if we can't, right, at least we could have a conversation between now and then. If we just can't get a good idea as to what the cost would be, which I guess.
then your options are whether or not you want to wait another year before you do
Right,
this.
which my feeling is, and I don't mean to put words in the mouth of anyone on the council, but my feeling is that we probably don't. So
Right.
then it just becomes our communication strategy of we're asking for a particular number, here's why, here's the risk involved in doing that. But that's a conversation for another time. Anything else from anyone else?
So are we gonna recommend that at least Sue sends a proposal or contacts these folks?
Yes, if you recommend that we get an estimate from
For whoever we
these
choose?
and then vote on the items that are on tonight's agenda at the next council meeting for inclusion on the warrant, we can
Okay.
do that.
Yeah, I think that works best. Think, Danny?
Didn't even know who to get a number from until this
Right.
afternoon at 4:30 or whenever we did that.
Good question.
Oh,
Yeah. You're picking the lowest bidder here on this, or get the number, or?
I don't know that they're going to pick the lowest bidder. We haven't vetted the proposals to see who's done successful work and if anyone's done it close enough to us to be realistic in terms of those kind of things. None of that's been done, so for the next meeting, they'll have information on who's recommended from the three of these to do that.
Whoever's recommended will get the contract to design.
That's correct.
So you're not actually bidding, you're not actually accepting bids on the proposed pool. You're accepting bids on.
On the design and all the
Design
engineering.
and
The
administration.
design if I'm sole designer and I win the contract, I can design it any way I want it. So cost can be reflected. It isn't like we've got a design pool and we're putting that out to bid, right?
Well, actually, the dimensions of the pool and the amenities that have been requested to be in it have been identified in this,
So
this request for proposal. So the design is the final, where do the elements go, where do the, all the engineering pieces that have to work together. But no, it isn't whatever size you think, or that has been defined for them.
all I'm thinking is, in terms that I know, I tell you I want a car, I want 4 doors, 4 tires, and a windshield. And there's a big difference between a Yugo and a Cadillac.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna say a Cadillac, I ain't gonna say a Yugo. That's all I'm saying.
I think the design specs call for, and I don't know, just use numbers like a 20 by 40 pool, so many feet at one end, so many feet at the other. That's the specs they have to build it on. And I think when we see the design of the pool, it's not going to be a Yugo or a Cadillac. It'll be the pool that's functional for what we're asking for.
Well, and you got stainless steel pipe, and you got
The-
plastic pipe.
And that's what the design guy's going to tell us.
We did ask for 2 options, one being one with a gunite
Interior.
interior and one that's a concrete pool. But we've asked for
Spec out both.
spec out both to give a,
That's my concern. You're asking them to bid, in November. And
we're asking, the November vote will be for an amount.
November.
Yeah, will be for an amount, and I think it would probably read not to exceed X, whatever that number is. When the guy comes in, when the folks, whoever gets the pool bid, will be based on those specs that come from this design. They may bid it out at 400,000, they bid it out at, hopefully not 1.2 million. And I think we make a decision from, if we do it then. I think we have to, in order to get the pool done next year, we have to have a thing on the ballot, and we just got these bids back for the design, but we have to have something on the ballot to allow us to spend over 250,000, which it's going to be. So we're coming up with a best guess estimate tonight, and that was a number, I think, because we haven't seen this. These all just came in today, so I think we take the 2 weeks to dive down and to see what these are. I think we get a better number from them what the pool's gonna cost, and I think we'll have a better number for that next meeting when we can determine what we wanna do.
And you would have the right to accept or deny.
Certainly.
Before you pull the
Before we
trigger
sign
anyway,
anything anyway,
right?
yeah.
So,
I think due diligence says figure out what it's gonna cost from a design standpoint, and then we decide from there what we're gonna do. That just gives us the authority to spend that money. It says we don't have to spend it, is the way
That's right.
on any of these bond things.
When was the decision made that we're just gonna go with an outside not covered pool? I missed that or something,
I'll answer. I think the cost, it was prohibitive that we'd had, we were hearing numbers of over $2 million, plus the upkeep every year on top of that we've got. Real numbers that we've seen in other places have been $20,000, $30,000 just for parts and pieces.
Yeah, well, I missed the discussion when it was discussed.
Yeah, I think-
That's what you're gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was determined that when we decided to go with a pool, two meetings ago maybe. Yeah. And it may not have been a great discussion. I think we heard one number, and I think we all kind of went, again, that was the end of it.
Yes, and there was never any decision to go ahead with this and go ahead with that. We just,
No, there was a decision to go with the in-ground without indoor pool. That was a decision.
Anything else on this? Very good. Road work proposals.
Jay put together information, some of which you had before and some of which breaks down road work, estimated cost for it, and as identified here, it's $2,513,000. I had put in the estimate or in the request for authority to borrow up to $3 million, because this is estimate, and there's also work that has to be done in these roads before you pave them, including culverts or all sorts of making sure that the under part is ready before we do any of that. But the proposal is to do this over a period of 3 years and to borrow the money to do it with a 5 to 8 year payback. I thought of 10, but 5 to 8 is a better, so that your roads don't outlive, you're not paying for, you're not upside down, like buying a car and your roads are now all gone. So that's the proposal, and it would go to the public as a resolve to authorize the town to borrow up to $3 million for the purpose of rehabilitating its roads.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah. What is the gas pipeline rebuild? What does that mean? Yeah, please.
That mentioned, that is the section of road. That is the old Hinks Road, or the Millvale Road, and then it turns and goes down Silver Lake Road, almost all the way to Silver Lake Boat Landing, is where the gas pipeline.
Sure.
And they run it however many years ago it was, and it's never been right since. Where they trenched down the roadway and backfilled it, you drive out through there and there's a crack right down the middle of the road, and it separates, and we've overlaid it, cracks again, it just keeps pushing away. So the thought of rebuild was that was the reclaim of the old base, blend it all together and fluff it all up and make a consistent base a foot or two deep. And you grade it out, compact it, and then put new pavement on top of that.
So has anybody tested this to see that what that's the actual issue is? Have there been test bore or test digs to see if that's what's causing it, if it is the pipeline or if it's?
Well, there's nothing else under the road but that. Like that's the only thing that's disturbed the road in many years.
But where does the pipeline doesn't run through the middle of the road, does it?
It runs under one lane. If you're driving out, it would be the outbound lane on Millvale, and then it kind of shuffles back and forth when it's on Silver Lake Road. They move to one side or the other because they hit ledge, and they shuffled around.
So they actually put it,
So
so they actually redid the road? They
They-
dug up the road when they?
They dug up what they needed to, and they filled back in what they disturbed. And I'm pretty sure there was a discussion when that was going down, like, should the entire road be done all at the same time? And that did not happen.
Because you can see out there on the Silver Lake part of the road
You
where
can see where
it
the pipeline
crosses.
goes.
You can tell
Yeah.
exactly where the pipeline is.
Mhm.
You see those little stakes out in the ditch, those are not over the pipe itself. Those are like little test wires that they do some sort of sound, ultrasound or something to test the integrity of the pipe. But the pipe itself is just about under the edge of pavement.
So it's not very far down then?
No, it's not that high. It's directly down from the edge of the road. But the trench they had to dig went half, 2/3 the width of one travel lane, and then out into the ditch line. And that, I mean, it's down most places 6 feet at a minimum. So, I mean, it's not, anything we do is not going to have any effect on the pipe itself, working only a foot or two deep on doing a reclaim. But
So is the plan to bid this out to
yeah,
companies?
there's several companies around that do the reclaiming work, and they reclaim, they grade, compact.
On a separate issue, but same paving, I was under the impression that 46 was supposed to be done on the 20th,
46.
where they were replacing that culvert by Eddie Rankin's place there.
I haven't been made.
Well, it's been going on for a month.
Of a deadline, yeah, it's been going on a long time.
Yeah, but it was, I was, when I
That's
saw
the
the bids,
state.
it was the
Yeah,
same thing, it was done by
yeah.
the 20th.
Yeah, they haven't made me, up to date on any of their progress.
Is there anybody we can get any recourse on that, where it's gone past the 20th and they're?
I think the DOT is finding them when they go past their end date, because it's a contract with the DOT.
And is there
I don't
any-
think
is there
we
any-
have any power.
Is there any thoughts on, out on 46 by Long Pond of fixing that, do we know? Where they fixed it last year?
That I can't tell you. Anytime I've asked, I don't get any direct answers. And it's all DOT's decision, but there's potential for problems plowing.
Yeah, there is.
So
And
Route
just your own
46
vehicle,
Long
but-
Pond, but the Route 46 by Rankins,
Yeah, they replaced the culvert and the bridge, they widened out the road and.
every time I go get my dog, I get it.
And I was under the impression, looking at the bid specs, when we were looking at road stuff, it was the 20th it was supposed to be done by, and we've gone past that, and I mean, I probably got another week's worth of work there, it looks like it's done, but I'm just kind of curious if it was,
To me, I'm not gonna read the prices.
yeah. But the Route 46 part out by Long Pond, I mean, we're gonna take our new plowing contract guy and,
Yeah,
and the road's not gonna be right, so.
yeah.
But that has nothing to do with us, I
There's
guess.
been complaints for several years from the last contractor. Anyone I
Do we have any
talk to never
recourse
gives me
with,
a straight answer.
or anybody to talk to, whether it's Dick Campbell or Kim Rosen to, there's a major thoroughfare coming down through there, and it's.
I agree, it's a truck route that,
Right.
if you sit and watch, there is.
I do sit and watch. But it's gonna become a dangerous piece of highway out there that
Mhm.
we're not gonna be able to maintain, and there's still gonna be travel, so. That'd be interesting if they could, do some recourse for us or something, so. Has nothing to do with your paving projects, I understand, but.
Yeah.
Bruce?
Yeah, like on my road there, are you gonna dig that out too, or you just
Dig it out? No.
hot off over it, or?
For now, it's gonna be an overlay. The problem with doing a reclaim, you need to have enough layers of old pavement to give you the volume you need when you grind it in to give you the base you want. And that lower end only has 2 to 3 layers of, and after we were down there, it's like, it's not enough to be a good candidate. Another layer on it, and then a short time down the road, we could talk about it, I think it would be, you'd get a better result.
It wouldn't do any good to pull it out and put it in base, at least, of gravel, so that it isn't, so it's got the drainage it should have underneath the road.
You could, it would be a far, far bigger number.
Yeah, I gotta say, that hill's a lot of water.
Yeah, there's like a spring underneath of it.
Yeah, it's screaming.
We found an old,
There's a couple of.
like an old rock drain, like a French drain that crossed it, that we found in the past.
In that road, there's one up above me. That one's been covered over now, so it's not bothering. Right there at the end of the field, I believe, was a well there or something. Why that broke up so bad across the Cooley Hole place.
I think that one, there was a rock removed, and it disturbed the base because the rock was poking up, and that rock was removed a long time ago. I mean, that's what, blending the base all together makes it all a consistent material. And we've had good luck with the ones we've already done.
And, one of the main concerns is a lot of clay keeps moving.
Yeah, you're right.
And you can do whatever you want on top, and you still moving.
I
I just think you see a lot of money wasted by paying the road and then
Yeah.
coming back.
I guess my only other point to this is, we need to make sure we're on some type of schedule going forward, that we don't come up to this again, and commit to that, so we're making sure that we're not facing this $3 million.
Right, I think it's going to mean a taller number on an annual basis, a regular maintenance number.
Well, but I think
But
that's a discussion we'll have
But
to have.
we're gonna have to figure out that exact number, and
Is the $3 million enough to get us there, to where we can start doing a regular maintenance schedule and not have, larger numbers like this?
I think so. I think it'll get us in the position when everyone used to say, look at Bucksport roads. I think it'll get us to that point, and then it will be a reasonable effort from then on to stay there.
But
But
reasonable
I do
effort
think,
may
I do
be
think it's gonna mean a
325
higher
a year
level than we've
instead
been
of-
doing all
Right,
this.
but I think that's a discussion we have when it comes
That's
to
what
budget
gets us
time,
into
and we
this
figure.
Yeah.
situation.
I just
Again,
want to make sure we have
priorities
enough
and
money
what we
going
wanna
into
do.
the roads. Now, if we need to spend money, let's spend it.
I mean,
And let's get the roads so that he can come out and say, okay, here's our schedule for how we're gonna redo it. And because we put this base down, and, if we need to spend that money, let's do it now.
I mean, to do something, for someone to think that it's going to be forever, you're gonna have a road like the interstate.
Yep.
That's gonna be 5 feet in the air, and the pipes are that far below, to not feel the reflection in the frost and everything, and that we don't have money for that. I don't think.
That's where the priorities come in play come next spring.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Right now, Rockland, Council is meeting, and they're talking about $10 million for redoing their roads, because their roads are in the same condition ours are. And it just seems to me like we're looking at putting a little bit of money in instead of putting in just what they're gonna do. And dumping some money. This is something that's important to everybody in town, these roads. It's not just something that's good for the Main Street area. I think we should consider a little bit more money in this.
Any other comments from the council or concerns? What's the pleasure?
So,
of
so,
Alderman?
I mean, if we say $3 million, and this is your project list, you know, we're hitting, surfacing about 10 miles of roads, reclaiming, and the pipeline road is about 6 miles of roads. Then we've got in-town roads and out-town roads. You know, one of the concerns that we had is we've got 24 miles of roads here, primary through roads. Those are roads that are traveled all the time, and that was, you know, when I talked about this, that was the concern that I had is, you know, find a number and do what we have to do to fix, and then put ourselves on this cycle to figure out where we're at. And I guess, you know, to Dan's question, to Jim's question, is that amount of money going to fix so Peter's not sitting here next spring and having the same conversation of you know, why are our roads crap again? And I don't want to say that in a bad way, but, you know, I think the flavor of everybody up here and people we're hearing from to other things was we want to get it fixed. You know, and do we find that number? Do we? You said 2.5. You added it to 3. And do we put ourselves in a mess? We put a number too big out there, and then everybody says no.
All right, I mean, that's the struggle. There's no amount of money that you couldn't spend. I mean, you could go, I really don't know how high the number could possibly be.
I don't want to be back here when I'm not here in 10, whatever the years are, and having the same conversation and looking to go borrow another $3 to $5 million as soon as we've just paid off the other one to do the same stuff. That was my concern when I mentioned this, and I want to make sure that we're being diligent in what we're going to do, and we're going to fix those major places that need to be fixed, and then we can work away and continue on where we're at. I guess the question is, you know, is the council comfortable with that number? Is that a good estimate from you? Is Sue happy with the number? You know,
I think it accomplishes what you asked for in terms of the roads that are in the worst condition. Having that, does it mean that there'll never need to be another road project in Bucksport? No. I mean, that's not a reasonable expectation, that there never will be a road that needs to be rebuilt. Because if that were the goal, it would go down to the base on every single one, and then you would be at well more than $10 million that he's talking about.
Right, you could do that $1 million a month if you were doing complete rebuild and building them up to the standard that people would love them to be at. You could spend $1 million a month with, you know, with contracts and engineers, and you could do it. But the reclaim is a very effective option for the money.
I guess the question that I'll ask so that it's asked is, and I doubt that a plan would be submitted that would have this built into it, but we're not, I'll say this, but I'll temper it. We're not throwing good money after bad here with doing something, like to go back to Bruce's example. That's not wasted money by doing the project as submitted on Russell Hill Road. That's obviously a road. Russell Hill Road is a road that's needed to be maintained for a while. But what I'm talking about is that's not bad. We're not just throwing money at it to patch it, to do a patch job, and then in 3 years having to do the same thing all over again, if not more. Is that what you're saying, Jay, or? Not to put you on the spot.
Well, I mean, it is. The way I try to explain it, putting a surface on it now is giving material that you could use in the future that would make it more effective to do the reclaim, grade, and paving.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a strategy, but it's also an
Yes.
acknowledgement that that road is going to need work in the future.
In the future, yes.
And so it boils down to whether we're comfortable with that. Bruce, sorry, I've seen your hand. Yep.
What's the time difference if you do the Silver Lake Road and Millvale Road, by reclaiming it and all that, versus the one you're gonna do on the Russell Hill Road? As far as length of time between towns, or expected length of time, I guess.
The goal is